The Islamic insight in regards to destiny and free will is both comprehensive and well-balanced, unmatched by any other insight human beings have ever explored. Human life exists according to a consistent universal constitution and unavoidable rules, such as gravity, the alternation of days and nights, the different seasons in the year, and aging. Beyond these constitutions and rules, there is God's will and destiny. All these constitutions and rules are also subject to God's wisdom, which determines everything that takes place. Therefore, the universal constitution set by God governs all, and the rules apply to everything, including man. By man's free will or choice of action and what he determines, initiates, and does, man makes himself subject to these rules which are bound to affect him. A simple example is as such. Man has the free will to eat as much candy as he wants, but if man eats more candy than he should, he is subject to get a stomach ache, tooth cavity, an increase in weight, or any combination of negative physical effects along with the positive pleasure obtained from eating candy. All the outcomes are preset universal rules for a human being when consuming more sugar than he should. Although man will have freedom of choice in the matter, the consequence for that choice is preset, or in other words destined. Of course, this is just a simple example to make the idea clearer for you, but you can project it to any and everything in life. All this, however, takes place in accordance with God's will and fulfills God's purpose behind things. On the other hand, man's own will, thought, action, and movement are part of the universal constitution and the rules God has set in the universe. God accomplishes with man's free will what God has destined. There is no conflict between these and the rules of nature God has set in operation. Such a conflict exists only in the minds of people who put God's will and action against those of man, weighing the one against the other. That way of thinking is contrary to the Islamic insight and outlook. According to Islam, man is neither equal nor an enemy to God. Indeed, when God granted man his constitution, intellect, intentional will, freedom of choice and action, he placed nothing of this in conflict with his own will or laws, nor did he allow these to serve a purpose other than his overall purpose in the whole universe. He only made it part of his will that man should reflect and decide, take action and produce a manifest effect, be liable to God's rules and laws and bear the full consequences of all that. These consequences may bring him pleasure or pain, comfort or trouble, happiness or misery. But behind all that stands God's will and destiny that encompasses everything in perfect coherence. What happened in the Battle of Uhud, a battle at the time of Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, in which Muslims were winning until a small battalion of the Muslim army saw the spoils of war and left their position to grab their share, causing a bitter defeat for the Muslims, provides a good example of what we have just said about the way Islam views the matter. The following approximate translation of the Quranic verse regarding the battle explains what happened and how. And that which precisely happened to you on the day when the two armies met, was so by the permission of Allah, so that the true believers become manifestly known by him. Surah Al-Imran, sign 166. God had previously explained to the Muslims his rules and conditions which bring them victory or cause defeat. They paid no heed to those rules and consequently suffered pain, hardship, and defeat. But the matter did not stop there. Their disobedience and their pain contributed to the fulfillment of God's purpose of testing their community so as to mark out the true believers, give them a clear outlook, and help them overcome their weakness, and also identify the hypocrites. All this will ultimately be of benefit to the Muslim community, despite the pain and suffering. It all works in accordance with God's rules and laws. That gives believers who submit themselves to God and follow the way of living, he has laid down an assurance that his help and care are forthcoming. By the same token, their errors are ultimately turned to their benefit, because suffering such errors cause the errors to become a means for proving their core and educating them. On such solid grounds the believers stand firm and comfortably. They are reassured, free of worry and confusion as they face God's will and interact with his laws. They feel that God determines what he wills concerning them and others. They are merely one of the tools God employs to fulfill his destiny and will. Whatever they do, right or wrong, and all that results from it remain in full harmony with God's will and fulfills his purpose. Everything will benefit a believers in their life, even when the believers don't think so themselves. I will end this video with an authentic saying from Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, regarding the believer's mindset. Wondrous is the affair of a believer, as there is goodness for him in every matter. This is not the case for anyone, but a believer. If he experiences pleasure, he thanks Allah, and it is good for him. If he experiences harm, he shows patience, and it is good for him.